The Afeyan family are innovators and early adopters. A family whose fortune was built by betting on scientific ideas that most of the world was not yet ready to take seriously, and holding those positions long enough for reality to catch up. Noubar Afeyan invented a new methodology for generating breakthrough companies, and that methodology produced Moderna, one of the most consequential biotechnology companies of the 21st century. The wealth that followed has been directed, in large part, back outward, towards science, education, and the survival of an ancient people. That arc, from displacement to discovery to deliberate giving, is the essential story of the Afeyans. The starting point is Beirut, Lebanon, in 1962. Noubar Afeyan was born into an Armenian family, a diaspora community shaped by the Armenian genocide of 1915, which had killed over 1 million people and scattered survivors across the Middle East. His grandfather was among those survivors. That history was part of the family's foundation, a source of resilience, and eventually a reason for large-scale giving back. In 1975, Lebanon's civil war erupted and the Afeyans were displaced again. The family left for Montreal, arriving as refugees. Noubar was 13, did not speak the language fluently, and rebuilt his footing from scratch. His father worked in plastics manufacturing in both Lebanon and Montreal, and that background left a visible mark on how Noubar thought engineering was practical, commercial, and generative in the Afeyan household. He pursued that orientation through the most rigorous channels available. A Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from McGill University in 1983, then a doctorate in biochemical engineering at MIT in 1987. Arriving at precisely the moment biotechnology was crystallizing as both a scientific discipline and a commercial industry. His first move out of the lab was direct entrepreneurship. In 1988, Afeyan founded Perceptive Biosystems in Cambridge, Massachusetts, building analytical instruments for biological research. He grew it over a decade to $100 million in annual revenues, then sold it to Perkin-Elmer and Applerock Corporation in 1998 for roughly $360 million in stock. That transaction established his first meaningful personal fortune and gave him a senior executive role at Applerock Corporation, where he helped initiate Celera Genomics, the private effort to sequence the human genome. The decade between founding and exit was where Afeyan developed the operational foundation that would define everything that followed. He ran a company start to finish, observed acquisitions from both sides, and formed a hypothesis that breakthrough innovation could be made systematic. That firm could function as an ongoing engine for generating companies rather than simply evaluating ones that entrepreneurs had already built. In 2000, he launched Flagship Ventures in Cambridge, later renamed Flagship Pioneering, built on exactly that hypothesis. Most venture firms evaluate deals that external founders bring to them. Flagship generates ideas internally. Teams of scientists work under deliberate uncertainty, beginning with what-if questions and running controlled experiments to test whether a hypothesis could become a company. Since its founding, Flagship has launched more than 100 companies, generating over $100 billion in aggregate portfolio value. The wealth structure matters. Afeyan is not only Flagship's founder and CEO, he is its controlling owner. He holds equity in the companies Flagship creates, and those positions compound over time. The firm is private and closely held. It is the engine room of the family's wealth. In 2009, that engine produced Moderna, built on the premise that messenger RNA could be deployed as a therapeutic platform. The scientific establishment had largely regarded it as too unstable for clinical use. Flagship disagreed. The company launched formally in 2010, with Afeyan as chairman and Stefan Bancel brought in as CEO to run day-to-day operations. Moderna raised over $1 billion in venture funding across nearly a decade as a private company, then went public in 2018 in what was then the largest biotech IPO in history. When COVID-19 spread globally in 2020, its platform was ready. Within weeks of receiving the viral sequence, Moderna had a vaccine prototype in development. Within a year, its messenger RNA vaccine was being administered worldwide. By late 2021, Afeyan's net worth was estimated at approximately $3.3 billion, the result of more than a decade of pre-commercial conviction. In February of that year alone, he sold nearly 1.9 million Moderna shares for over $300 million in a single transaction. Since that peak, Moderna has contracted significantly. The company posted operating losses exceeding $3 billion in 2025 as it works to extend its platform beyond COVID vaccines. As of early 2026, Afeyan's documented Moderna holdings were valued at roughly $360 million. His total wealth, through Flagship's broader private portfolio, is estimated at approximately $2 billion. Anna Afeyan Gunnarsson is central to understanding how the family actually functions, not as a footnote to Noubar's career, but as a parallel architecture in a different domain. The two met at an American Chemical Society conference in California in the mid-1980s. Anna had trained in chemical engineering at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, worked as a process engineer at Alfa Laval, and had come to the United States to work at Schering-Plough. After the couple settled in the Boston area and began a family, she stepped back from the corporate track, raised their 4 children, and redirected her energy toward educational equity. For 8 years, she taught science at Beacon Academy in Boston, a school serving high-potential students from underserved communities, and eventually joined its board as treasurer. She also sits on the boards of Aurora, the UWC Diligen School in Armenia, and the Health Network for Armenia. The couple has 4 children. 3 have not entered the public record in connection with the family's work. The exception is their daughter Armine Afeyan, a Yale alumna, who serves as Chief Executive Officer of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative. The transition, from Noubar as co-founder and board chair to Armine as operating executive, is the most visible generational handoff the family has made. It is a functional role, not a ceremonial one. In their giving pledge letter, signed jointly in 2025, Noubar and Anna were explicit. The majority of their fortune would be directed outward, not retained within the family. The Afeyan Foundation was founded in the same year as Flagship Pioneering, 2000, meaning the philanthropic framework was built alongside the commercial one from the start. The values they cite, what they call an immigrant mindset of tenacity, resilience, creativity, and agility, reflect Armenian and Swedish heritage and the biographical experience of having rebuilt a life twice over. Armenia sits at the center of the family's philanthropic identity in a way that is institutional rather than sentimental. Noubar has served on the board of Bank, co-founded the National Competitiveness Foundation of Armenia, and was a founding patron of UWC Diligen, a rigorous international school in northern Armenia. In 2015, on the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide, he co-founded the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative with scholar Vartan Gregorian and businessman Ruben Vardanyan. Aurora awards the Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity, a $1 million recognition for individuals who have risked their lives to protect others in crisis, and now operates across 63 countries. In 2024, the family consolidated its Armenia work through the launch of AFA, the Afeyan Initiatives for Armenia, a standalone hub covering Armenia 2041, the Foundation for Armenian Science and Technology, the Health Network for Armenia, and several other programs. Its director was appointed from outside the family, a deliberate signal that institutional governance is the intended operating model going forward. The family's empire rests on 3 interlocking structures. Flagship Pioneering is the commercial engine, privately held by Noubar, with Moderna as its most visible asset. The Afeyan Foundation is the philanthropic vehicle, co-led by Noubar and Anna. Aurora is the global humanitarian platform, now run by Armine. Noubar chairs or sits on the governing boards of all 3. Anna sits on 2. Armine leads one. The vulnerabilities are real. Flagship's model depends heavily on Noubar's judgment and relationships, and the question of succession at the firm level remains unresolved. Moderna's commercial future beyond COVID is genuinely uncertain. And the philanthropic architecture, though increasingly professionalized, remains culturally tied to the founding generation. As of 2026, Noubar is still building CEO of Flagship, chairman of Moderna, member of the MIT Corporation and Council on Foreign Relations, elected to the National Academy of Engineering in 2022, and recipient of the National Medal of Technology and Innovation in 2025. Anna remains active across boards in the United States and Armenia. Armine runs Aurora. The other 3 children have not yet appeared in public-facing roles. What is being passed to the next generation is not primarily financial capital. What is being passed is a framework, a methodology for institution building, values oriented around displacement and reconstruction, and a conviction that science and human dignity reinforce each other. The Afeyan family built its empire through scientific conviction held for decades before it was vindicated, combined with a venture creation model that systematized the conditions for breakthrough. The philanthropic architecture reflects the same sensibility, built deliberately, managed operationally, and oriented toward outcomes that outlast any single generation.